station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
This is High Power 102.7 FM.
This is where voices rise, culture thrives, and the people speak. Your heartbeat station, your connection to truth, rhythm, and community. High Power 102.7 FM, the pride of the people.
Yes, a beautiful morning to you, and welcome to another edition of In the Papers, a program where we bring you stories from different newspapers within and outside Nigeria. I am Inioluwa Adekoya, and we shall be taking you through newspapers from This Day newspaper, the cable newspaper, the Daily Post newspaper, and the Oak newspaper. And right about now, we will take a short break. When we get back, we will drive you straight into the stories beginning from the Oak newspaper. Yes, glad to have you back. Beginning from the list of our headlines this morning on the Old newspaper, Ondo government moves against illegal political billboards. Yes, still on the Old newspaper, talking Yuletide. Hike in transport fares despite fuel price reduction worries federal government. I took a flight to the Punch newspaper, talking alleged alteration. Alleged alteration in tax laws sparks call for probe. Still on the Punch newspaper, talking presidency, remaining 130 abducted Niger pupils released, says presidency. And on the Nation newspaper, soldiers ambush Boko Haram logistics convoy, kill 21 in Borno. Still on the Nation newspaper, Mofang defection will strengthen APC prospect for 2027, says Dati. And And now I take a flight to the Daily Post newspaper. Kebbi youth protest demand release of Malami from EFCC custody. Still back to the Punch newspaper where I've got this. Dangote threatens Kaduna businessman with 100 billion lawsuits. Yes, until the Daily Post newspaper, Pengassan President or SIFO calls for 51% sale of NNPC refineries. Yes, and finally, on the Daily Post newspaper, Falanoi Modu family rejects 23 million naira compensation for Lagos land takeover. And with that, we will take a short break. When we get back, we'll give you more headlines and more stories coming your way shortly. Yes, glad to have you back. The program is in the papers and it's coming to you from no other station but our Power 102.7 FM. Beginning on the top of our list of stories this morning on the newspaper, Ondo government moves against illegal political billboards. And now to the details. The senior special assistant to the Ondo State Governor on signage and advertisement, Yomi Oyekon, has raised alarm over the sudden widespread of proliferation of political billboards, advertisement and visual campaign materials across the state, particularly the Southern Senatorial District. Oyekon, in a press conference, said he had observed with growing concerns the unchecked erection and display of political campaign materials in several parts of the state, while noting that political participation and expression remains integral to democratic engagement. He stressed that the erection, display or placement of any billboards, banners, posters or outdoor political advertisement without prior communication and express approval from the Ondo State Signage and Advertisement Agency is illegal and a clear violation of extant regulation guiding outdoor advertising in the state. He further emphasized that the political party affiliation, status or perceived influence does not confer immunity, waiver or exemptions on any individual, group or organizations, adding that all political actors and stakeholders are subject to the same rule. Accordingly, Oyekon directed all individuals, political actors, groups and organizations responsible for the materials to immediately engage formally and communicate with the Ondo State Signage and Advertisement Agency for proper approval, regularization. A grace period of 42 hours commencing from Monday, December 22nd, that is today, was granted for compliance. If that story aligns with your interest, this is on the Old newspaper with the headline, Ondo government moves against illegal political billboards. Still on the Old newspaper, talking Yuletide, hike in transport fares despite fuel price reduction worries federal government. And now to the details. The federal government, through the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission (FCCPC), has cautioned intercity road transport operators against arbitrary and unexplained fare increase in this Yuletide period. This followed a surge in consumers' complaint across several parts of the country that transport fares had in the last 1 week risen rather abnormally. The complaint said the sudden rise in transport fares contradicted public expectations upon the crash in petroleum pump price. In a statement by the FCCPC spokesperson on Daje Ijago, The Commission acknowledged the seasonal demand, operational pressure, and other legitimate cost factors may affect transport pricing. However, consumers are entitled to clear, accurate, and timely information on fares before travel, it clarified. The Commission said any fare adjustment must therefore be transparently communicated and applied fairly. The FCCPC also noted that these complaints are arising at a time where there are reports of reduction in pump price of premium motor spirit across parts of the country. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Oak newspaper with the headline, Hike in transport fares despite fuel price reduction worries federal government. And now I take a flight to the Punch newspaper talking taxes. Alleged alteration in tax laws sparks call for probe. And now to the details. The reported alteration of the new tax reform laws has continued to generate strong reactions with the socio-economic rights and accountability project and various northern groups pushing for a probe of the alleged illegal tweaks to the law. The tax laws is scheduled to take effect on January 1st, 2026, was signed recently by President Bola Tinubu. However, some lawmakers, led by Sokoto lawmaker Abdulsamad Dasuki, alleged discrepancies between the harmonized bill passed by both chambers and the version gazetted. In response, Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas constituted a 7-member committee chaired by the chairman of the House Committee on Appropriations, Mukhtar Bettara, to investigate the allegation. Prominent political figures, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, have called for the suspension of implementation pending clarification. Reacting to the allegation, the presidency dismissed the claims of secret alterations and insisted that the reform would proceed. Speaking on the development in a statement recently, Serap President urged Tinubu to urgently direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, to publish certified true copies of the tax bill received from the National Assembly and the tax laws assented to by the President. Serap also requested the publication of certified true copies of the versions of laws eventually gazetted. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Alleged alterations in tax laws spark calls for probe. Yes, still on the Punch newspaper, remaining 130 abducted Niger pupils released, says presidency. And now to the details. The final batch of the 130 students abducted from the St. Mary Catholic Primary and Secondary School in Papiri, Niger State, regained their freedom recently, bringing to an end one of Nigeria's largest recent mass school kidnappings. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Communications, Sunday Dare, disclosed this in a post on his official X handle on Sunday evening. The post says, the post stated, and I quote, another 130 abducted Nigerian state pupils released, none left in captivity, Dare wrote, adding that all 303 students and 12 teachers seized during the November 21st attack have now been accounted for. The freed children arrived in Minna, the Niger state capital, joining earlier batches released in phases over the past month. Shortly after the abduction, about 50 students escaped on their own, while security agencies freed 100 students on December 8 following what President Bola Tinubu described as sustained security operations. The students were received at the Niger State Government House in ceremony attended by Governor Mohamed Bago, who assured that health workers would examine the children before reuniting them with their families. The abduction occurred in the early hours of November 21st when armed men on motorcycles stormed the boarding school in Papiri, Aguara local government area. Eyewitnesses said the attackers fired shots in the air to create panic before moving from dormitory to dormitory, rounding up the students and staffs. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, "Remaining 130 abducted Niger pupils released," says Presidency. Yeah, still on the Punch newspaper, Joasu rejects calls to end strike, plans meeting. And now to the details. The joint health sector unions have rejected calls to suspend its ongoing nationwide strike, insisting that any decision on industrial actions must first be taken collectively by its members' union. The president of Joasu, Kabiru Minjiba, disclosed this recently, saying the unions had informed the federal government's negotiation committee that they could not call off the strike without consulting their members. Minjiba said that although the committee urged the unions to suspend the action following recent engagement, Joasu declined and instead resolved to convene an expanded Nation Executive Council meeting to deliberate on the matter. A correspondent said, and I quote, "The committee has met and asked us to suspend the strike, but we told them we cannot do that without consulting the unions. We have to report back to our members. That is why we are planning to an expanded NEC meeting, likely to be held next week, possibly before Christmas. Until then, the strike continues." Joasu, in collaboration with the Assembly of Healthcare Professionals Association, commenced an indefinite nationwide strike on November 15, 2025, over the federal government failure to implement the adjusted consolidated health salary structure and address lingering welfare and systematic challenges facing health workers. In response to the strike, President Bola Tinubu constituted a high-level committee to negotiate with the unions. The committee is expected to brief key government officials, including the Ministers of Health and